The hospital room was still wrapped in the faint darkness of early dawn, when Eleanor suddenly opened her eyes and pushed the nurse's arm away with surprising force. Her voice cut through the quiet like a blade. "Don't let him in, he's right outside the door." Robert froze where he stood. He had never heard that name before, a name his wife, who barely remembered her own birthday, now repeated with piercing clarity. "Robert, he's coming back. He said he would." The door handle rattled once. A slow, metallic click echoed down the hallway as if someone were testing it from the other side. The nurse stepped back, whispering, "Sir, is someone visiting this early?" Robert shook his head. "No one. Absolutely no one." But Eleanor's gaze stayed fixed on the door, her breathing turning shallow, her fingers gripping the blanket as if she were bracing for something she had feared for years ago. "He promised," she whispered, her lips trembling. "He said he'd find me again." Then the hallway went silent, too silent, like the pause before a storm breaks open. Robert stepped toward the door, each footfall heavier than the last, a question tightening in his chest. Who was this man she remembered instead of me? Before he could touch the knob, Eleanor's voice rose again, brittle and urgent. "Don't open it. If you open that door, everything starts all over again." The handle rattled a second time, a slow scrape like a shoe turning on the linoleum floor. Someone was out there, someone who shouldn't be. And in that breathless moment, Robert realized something far more unsettling. His wife, lost in the fog of dementia, had suddenly remembered someone with perfect clarity, but not him. Someone else. Someone she feared or someone she longed for. The darkness in the hallway did not answer, but the question hung in the air, sharp and cold. Who was the last person she remembered? And why was he here now? The hallway outside remained still, but Robert didn't move from where he stood. That name, the one Eleanor had shouted, did not belong anywhere in the 4 decades of memories they shared. He drew in a slow breath and turned back toward her bed, trying to keep his voice steady. "Eleanor, it's me. It's Robert." He reached out gently, but she didn't look at him at first. Her eyes hovered somewhere in the space between fear and confusion, as if she was sorting faces that kept blending together. "You're really here, right?" she whispered. Her voice trembled, but not from weakness. There was something else beneath it, a quiet panic, the kind that rises when a memory refuses to go away. Robert held her hand. "I've been right here. I never left, not once." Slowly, Eleanor turned her head to him, but her gaze didn't settle, it wavered, as if she was staring at two people layered on top of each other. "Today," she murmured, "your face looks different." Robert froze. He had heard similar things on her difficult days, but this time, the words felt heavier, as if she wasn't confusing him with just anyone. "What do you mean, different?" Eleanor swallowed. "You look like him. That's why I'm confused." A small, sharp ache spread across Robert's chest. Whoever him was, Eleanor remembered that man more clearly than she remembered her own husband. This wasn't simple confusion. It felt like an old chapter of her life was pushing its way back into the present. Suddenly, Eleanor clutched his hand tighter. "Robert, the first, don't think I can make it through tonight." He leaned closer, startled. "What are you talking about? Why would you say that?" She inhaled, shallow and shaky. "He said he'd come back. Even if I forgot, he'd find me." The room grew heavier with each word. Eleanor's someone wasn't just a shadow in her mind. He was tied to a memory that refused to fade, a memory she had buried deep but could never erase. Robert brushed her hair gently. "I'll protect you, whatever happens." But Eleanor's expression stayed tense. "Can you really stop him? He always kept his promises." Robert felt a quiet unease creeping up his spine. A promise from long ago, one he had never heard of, one that involved a part of her life he had never touched. As the dim light flickered, Eleanor whispered, "I think tonight is the night he comes for it." Robert didn't argue, because for the first time, he felt the same cold dread she did. Robert gently placed Eleanor's hand back under the blanket, then slowly scanned the room. Finding out who that man was had become a weight pressing against his ribcage, urging him to act even though he wasn't sure what he was looking for. Talking to her now would only exhaust her more, so he searched instead for anything she might have left behind, any trace of a memory she could no longer explain. The nightstand held only the usual things: her pills, a water bottle, and a small Bible worn from decades of use. But something else caught his eye, a faded pouch half hidden beneath the bed. Eleanor never brought personal belongings to the hospital, not without telling him. He crouched, pulled it out carefully, and felt the rough fabric, frayed from years ago. The zipper resisted at first, then gave way with a tired sound. Inside lay a small cassette recorder and several folded papers. Robert's breath hitched. Eleanor had never been the type to keep journals or recordings. He lifted the recorder onto his palm and pressed the power switch. A thin whir filled the room, followed by static, then a voice. Her voice. Younger, stronger, urgent. If he finds me. Robert leaned closer, thumb tightening on the device. Don't open the door. Promise me. There was no doubt. It was Eleanor, but from a version of her life he had never known. A version that sounded frightened and determined to leave a warning for someone. More static, then another faint line. When he comes back everything starts again. The words crawled beneath Robert's skin. He looked at his wife. Her eyes were closed, breathing shallow, but her fingers twitched as though reacting to memories she could no longer speak aloud. For 40 years, Eleanor had rarely spoken about her life before their marriage. Whenever Robert asked, she would offer the same quiet reply, let the past stay where it is. Until now, he had taken that as simple modesty. Now he heard it as something else entirely, a plea, a warning. He unfolded the papers inside the pouch. No photographs, only an old medical file, edges yellowed, and on the final page a name. The same name Eleanor had cried out just hours earlier. Robert froze. The room felt smaller, colder, as if the walls themselves understood something he didn't. This pouch wasn't just forgotten clutter. It was a sealed door to a past he had tried desperately to bury, and it had just been opened. He looked down at the recorder again, a quiet dread settling over him. Somewhere in that tiny machine was the truth he had never been meant to hear, a truth that was finally demanding to be uncovered. Robert set the recorder down, his fingers trembling slightly as he lowered himself into the chair. Pieces of Eleanor's past, a past he had never touched, were surfacing like fragments of a broken photograph, none of them fitting together yet all demanding to be seen. A soft groan pulled him back. Eleanor shifted, her eyes opening, searching for something that wasn't entirely in the room. Her gaze drifted until it landed on him. Are you really Robert? Her voice cracked on the last word. Yes, sweetheart. It's me. He kept his tone steady, but her expression tightened, as if she were trying to peel apart two overlapping faces. You look faded, she whispered, like you're mixing with him. I don't know why. Robert couldn't answer. He didn't know who him was, only that this man lived inside a memory so powerful it was pulling her away from reality. Eleanor drew a shaky breath. He said he'd come back. Even if I forgot him, he'd still find me. She curled into herself, gripping the blanket as though preparing for impact. When Robert reached for her hand, she flinched. Your hand. She stared at it, wide-eyed. It feels like his. The words hit him harder than he expected. Decades of devotion, love, and routine collided with the chilling possibility that another man, one Robert had never met, might hold more space in her memory than he ever could. Eleanor continued, her voice drifting in and out. He left me, but he said he'd return. He told me I didn't keep my part of the promise. A promise? Robert leaned closer. What promise, Eleanor? What did he want from you? Her answer was barely audible. To undo everything. The room seemed to shrink around them. Undo everything. Not revisit, not explain, but erase. The man she remembered wasn't coming back out of affection. He was coming back for something unfinished. Eleanor whispered, tonight he's coming for me. I know he is. Robert wanted to hold her, reassure her, anchor her, but she looked at him as if seeing two versions of the same man. One safe, one dangerous. Even the soft beeping of the heart monitor sounded like a warning. Robert made a silent vow. He would find out who this man was, and why Eleanor believed he could reach across decades to take her back. As he stood, one sentence from the recorder echoed again in his mind. Don't open the door. But Robert knew the truth now. He would have to open it, because whatever waited behind it was the only way to save her. The hallway outside was still, but the silence felt wrong. Not peaceful, but watchful. Robert stood near the door, listening. Something low and heavy vibrated beneath the floor, a sound he had never heard in this hospital. It wasn't machinery. Then he noticed it, a faint shadow flickering under the door. Not a walking shadow, but the kind made by someone shifting their weight, waiting. Footsteps rushed toward him. A young nurse appeared, slightly breathless. "Sir, there was a man standing in the hallway earlier. He kept staring at this room. He's not on the visitor list, so we called security." Robert's stomach tightened. What did he look like? The nurse hesitated. "He looked exactly like what your wife described." Robert felt the floor drop under him. Eleanor's phantom, the man from her memories, wasn't just a memory anymore. He was here. He turned toward her. Eleanor's eyes were shut, but her fingers trembled lightly, as if reacting to something unseen. "Eleanor, I'm right here." The lights flickered. A sharp, quick pulse, then another in the hallway. It didn't feel like an electrical issue. It felt intentional, as if the building itself reacted to someone's presence. Eleanor whispered, "He's here." Robert hurried to her side. "Who's here?" "Tell me." "Him." Her breath hitched. "That's how he came last time." The lights fading, the air stopping, and then he waited outside the door. Her certainty chilled him. This wasn't confusion. She was remembering. Robert looked at the door again. The metal above the handle fogged slightly, the faint blur someone makes when breathing too close to cold steel. Someone was right outside. He stepped back instinctively. A burst of static crackled from the hallway. "Security to third floor, unidentified male spotted." Standing near one of the rooms, possibly. The transmission cut abruptly. Eleanor's voice was thin but steady. "He said he'd come. Even if I forgot, he'd never forget me." Robert held her hand, and this time she didn't pull away. Her grip tightened desperately, anchoring herself to the only thing she knew was real. Then the sound came. Soft, uneven footsteps approaching. Slow, deliberate, until they stopped right outside their door. Robert didn't need to open it to know. Whoever it was, he was standing inches away. Eleanor whispered one more time, "It begins now." The footsteps outside the door stopped completely. Silence pressed into the room, thick enough to feel on the skin. Robert's heartbeat thudded so hard it hurt, as if something inside him was trying to get out. "Robert." Eleanor's voice trembled, but there was clarity beneath the fear, the kind that comes when memory and terror blend into one. "I'm here," he said softly, but even to himself, the words sounded uncertain. Then the door handle lowered, not all the way, just enough to show someone was gripping it, holding still, waiting. Eleanor whispered sharply, "That's what he used to do. He'd wait until I understood." "Understood what?" Robert asked. "That I broke the promise." The temperature in the room dropped at once. Robert's skin prickled as he stared at the door. There was no sound, no movement, yet he could sense someone leaning close on the other side. Then, the door nudged inward, a tiny shift, but enough to say, "I'm right here." Robert snapped, "Who are you?" "Answer me." There was no reply, only the handle slowly lifting back into place, and the faint fog that formed on the metal, like a breath pressed too close. "He's angry," Eleanor murmured. "Why?" "Because I didn't protect the one he sent me." Robert's breath halted. "Sent? Protect?" The meaning hit like ice water, but there was no time to think. A shout erupted down the hall. "Stop right there. Sir, I need to see your ID." Footsteps pounded toward the room, and then stopped abruptly. "I swear he came this way." The guard's voice quivered. Robert moved, but Eleanor grabbed his wrist. "Don't go. If he sees you, he might remember." "Remember what?" She looked at him with wide, breaking eyes. "You look like him." The words rooted him to the floor. This wasn't confusion anymore. This was a collision of past and present, and he was standing in the middle of it. A low, heavy sound came from behind the door. Not a voice, not a machine. Something emotional, distorted, almost grieving. Eleanor whispered, "Do you hear it? That's his signal. He won't wait anymore." The room lights flickered 3 times, and then, the handle turned all the way. Robert stepped in front of his wife, arms spread. "You're not coming in here." "Not tonight." The door shuddered, a small movement, but unmistakably real. Eleanor choked out, "Robert, it's too late." And then, from beneath the door, a dark, shifting shadow slid quietly into the room. The shadow slipping under the door had no shape, no body, yet its presence filled the room like a weight. Robert stumbled back, gripping the bed rail as his pulse hammered in his throat. Eleanor clung to his arm, barely breathing. The shadow glided across the floor, slow, deliberate, heading toward the bed. Then the lights flickered once, and went out completely, a slice of total darkness. Then, from the far corner of the room came a long, dragging inhale, as if something was forming itself inside the dark. "He's here," Eleanor whispered. "He's really here." Robert tried to turn on his phone's flashlight, but the screen stayed black. Not dead, blocked, as if some signal had been cut off. Eleanor's whisper trembled. "He's looking for the one I was supposed to bring back to him." The words hit him. Bring back? Who? Before he could ask, the bed curtain snapped. Fabric rustled, pulling apart then falling back together. Air twisted as though someone invisible had passed through it. "Show yourself," Robert shouted. "Stop hiding and show yourself." The lights flashed on, but what he saw was worse. The heart monitor beside the bed no longer displayed Eleanor's vitals. Instead, another person's heartbeat filled the screen. Someone who wasn't in the room, someone who shouldn't be alive. And above the pattern blinked a name. The same name Eleanor had been calling all night. Eleanor recoiled. "He's alive, he's here." Suddenly, the door shuddered violently. Not a rattle, a full force attempt to break it down. A guard's voice echoed from the hallway. "Step away from the door. Someone's trying to." The sound cut off mid-sentence. Everything outside the room went silent. No footsteps, no voices, not even the usual hum of hospital machines. Then, the door began to open, slowly, deliberately, by itself. A cold draft seeped through the widening gap, a temperature no hallway should ever hold. Eleanor clutched Robert's shirt, her voice breaking. "He came to take back what we lost, what I hid from him." Robert turned to her, desperate. "What did you hide?" "Eleanor, what is he looking for?" Her eyes squeezed shut. Her voice cracked into a confession. "Our child." And the moment the words left her lips, the door blew open with a deafening crash. The air inside the room twisted violently, as if the world itself had torn open. The door burst open, and the cold wind that rushed in felt nothing like hospital air. Papers flew upward, monitors screeched, and the room spun with a pressure that made Robert's ears ring. Eleanor curled in on herself, sobbing. He wasn't supposed to come today. Why today? Robert shielded her with his arms. "Eleanor, listen to me. You said he's here for our child." "What child?" Before she could answer, slow footsteps emerged from behind the bed curtain. Not rushing, not threatening, simply certain. Eleanor clutched Robert's collar. "Don't let him see you. If he sees you, he'll remember everything." "Remember what?" Robert demanded. Her voice shook. "When my son was born, I couldn't protect him." Robert stared at her. "Your son?" "Eleanor, we never." "No," she cut him off. "You and I never had a child. I had one before you. And his father is the man standing here now." The wind stopped instantly. The room held still, listening. Robert's breath faltered, but Eleanor kept speaking. "He never forgave me for leaving. I ran because I wanted to save the baby. He kept the child with him and then, one day the child was just gone." Her voice cracked. "I thought if I never spoke of it, it would be like it never happened." Robert whispered. "Why hide it from me?" Eleanor touched his hand with trembling fingers. "Because you were the one safe place in my life, and I didn't want his shadow touching you." Before Robert could speak, something moved under the bed, a slow rustle of fabric. Robert stepped back as a small, pale hand slid out from the darkness beneath the frame. A child's hand, thin, scarred, reaching. Eleanor screamed. "No, not him. That's the child." Robert's voice dropped. "Our child?" Eleanor nodded, tears streaming. "He took him from me. I never saw him again. He became a memory I couldn't hold on to, and now he's coming to claim what's left of that memory." Then, the child's hand crawled out fully, followed by the faint outline of a small arm. The air thickened, and from the doorway came a voice, low, cold, filled with something ancient and broken. "Eleanor." She froze. Her breath stopped. That voice belonged to the man she fled, the man she warned herself never to remember. "I've come," he said softly, "to finish the promise." The room trembled again. As the past she buried rose up to swallow the present, the room stayed cold, unnaturally still. The man's silhouette at the doorway was drowned in darkness, but his presence swallowed the space like a widening void. Eleanor trembled so hard the bed frame shook. "Robert, don't go near him, please." Her grip on his hand felt like ice. The man spoke again, his voice heavy and hollow. "Eleanor, it has been a long time." There was no anger, no rage, only a broken weariness, the kind shaped by decades of grief. Robert stepped forward. "Who are you? Why are you tormenting her? Why us?" The man slowly turned toward him. "I'm not here to torment anyone. I came to reclaim what was taken from me." "What was taken?" "The child, and the years ago that was stolen from us both." The words hit the room like a cold blade. Eleanor collapsed forward, crying into her hands. "You should have protected him." I just couldn't." The man's tone cracked with faint emotion. "You ran. You left him with me. I ran to save him." Eleanor screamed. "Because if he stayed with you he wouldn't survive." The man's shadow flickered, not with violence, but with something like shock. Robert put himself between them. "Enough. You both deserve the truth, but not like this." The man stared at him. "And who are you?" "I'm her husband." The word caused a visible shift in the darkness around him. "Husband?" His voice lowered. "She learns to love again without me." Eleanor nodded weakly. "I tried to build a life after everything fell apart." His silhouette wilted slightly, as if her words removed something from him. "So you forgot our child?" "Never." Eleanor cried. "I didn't forget. I was afraid remembering would destroy me." A faint movement stirred under the bed. The small hand returned, creeping farther out. The man's voice shook. "He wasn't abandoned." Eleanor's eyes widened. What do you mean?" "He didn't disappear." The man paused, breath unsteady. "He vanished only from your memory, Eleanor, not from the world." The room froze. "I tried to protect him after you left, but he searched for you, calling your name, until he couldn't bear the world without you." Eleanor collapsed, sobbing. "Please stop, I can't." The man exhaled a long, trembling breath. "That is why I'm here, to return the memory that you buried." He turned to Robert. "And you're part of the new life she built, a life untouched by the ruins of the past." There was no blame in his tone, only resignation. The man stepped forward. The child's hand beneath the bed twitched harder, as if answering the movement. Eleanor whispered, "He's coming out." "The child." The man nodded slowly. "Tonight the past takes its final shape." Robert instinctively shielded his wife again. "This can't end yet, not until we hear the whole truth." The man lifted his head. "Yes, it's time to reveal everything." And the shadow around him stretched across the floor like a rising tide. The shadow spread across the room, almost touching every corner. When Eleanor pressed a hand to her chest and cried out, "No, I won't go back. Not again." The shadow halted. The man paused mid-step, as if her voice had struck something deep inside him. Robert stepped forward. "You said you came to return the truth, not to punish her. Then do it now. Tell us everything, and let this end." The man lifted his head slowly. Even in darkness, Robert felt the weight of his stare. "Very well." His voice softened. "There is one last piece left." The small hand beneath the bed stopped trembling. A faint outline of a child formed, fragile as smoke, yet painfully real. Eleanor sobbed, reaching toward him. "My baby, I never meant to forget you. I never meant to let you go." The man shook his head gently. "You didn't forget him. Your heart hid him to protect you from breaking." The child's shape sharpened, tiny fingers lifting toward her. But the form was not flesh and bone. It shimmered like memory made visible. "This child isn't living," the man said quietly. "He is the sorrow you concealed, the piece of yourself you locked away." Robert placed a steady hand on Eleanor's shoulder. "It's okay. You can face him now." Eleanor wiped her tears, then extended her trembling hand. When her fingertips touched the child's, the small figure dissolved into warm light. The glow traveled up her arm, into her chest, filling the hollow spaces she had carried for years ago. At the same time, The man's dark outline began to fade. He looked at Robert. You played the part I never could. You protected her future. Now protect her memories. Robert nodded. I will. You have my word. The man gave a faint, grateful tilt of his head. Then he turned to Eleanor. You are free now. You and the child. His body broke apart into drifting fragments of shadow, each piece dissolving into the gentle warmth returning to the room. Eleanor leaned into Robert, whispering, He's not hurting anymore. I can finally remember without breaking. Robert held her close. I'm here. You're safe. And so is he. The machine steadied. The lights glowed softly again, and the cold that had dominated the room lifted at last. A door in Eleanor's memory, locked for decades, finally closed, and another door, quiet and full of hope, opened for the two of them. Thank you for staying with us until the end. We'll return with an even better story next time. Your subscribe, like, and notifications bring us great joy.